Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Your Sacred Sexy Life. I am Anahita Joon Tehrani, your host, and I am overjoyed to be here with my sister Anaiya Sophia, who is a mystic, an author, and initiator of sacred marriage. She is a wellspring of wisdom, both in knowledge and experience, and she is known for birthing a new paradigm of relationship and teaching on divine sexuality and awakening the sacred body. And you're in for a treat today. Welcome, beauty.
Hi, Anahita. Thank you so much for bringing me on this show.
Yes, it's my pleasure, and everyone else. I'm just so excited to have you here with us. So, for everyone watching, when we initially connected, when I connected with Anaiya Sophia, we had a really juicy connection, and what came forward is what she is going to share with you on today. So this is what I really wanted her to speak to, and I'm just going to let her take us on a journey. And as questions come forward, I may ask them, but let's just go ahead and receive what's coming forward here.
Okay, so this is a story for all of us in this era. Right back at the beginning of time, the very first woman to be embodied as human was a woman called Lilith. This was the first one who showed up with Adam, our original parents, if you like. Lilith was wild, embodied, direct, courageous, brave, untamable, gorgeously sexy. She was just in her body. Everything was working well between her and Adam. There had been no babies yet, and there was a little bit of a power struggle beginning to arrive on the horizon. After putting up with as much as she could, she decided to flee the Garden of Eden and go and hang out in the Sinai desert, just having fun, enjoying her own nature. 3 archangels came to see her and said, Lilith, you really have to get back to the Garden of Eden and continue on with this great journey of creating humanity with Adam. She says, I'm not going back to that one. We have a power struggle. He's not agreeing to the original template. He's getting a little bit full of himself. I'm not going back. So the 3 archangels took that message back to the Godhead, and sure enough, a second woman was created. This one we know of as Eve. Completely different character. She was tender, gentle, comforting, passive, subservient, and a little bit easier to get along with. And the reason I tell this story over and over again is because it's an archetypal story. And I feel no matter what age, what culture, what tradition, even what religion, every single woman will recognize this same duality in their own psyche. You could call this the whore and the virgin, the good girl, the bad girl, the wild girl, the sacred girl. So it's 2 very distinct energies that at the beginning of the journey appear polarized and almost impossible to bring together. We're either one or the other. That's how it was for me, very much so. And so what I always do with the women I work with is to raise this subject and actually bring some proactive experiences of this energy so they can get closer to that unified field, unifying these 2 archetypes. We're going to have to do it anyway. We can't carry on with this great big schism in our psyche. So if we're, I've been both. I've been in my 20s. I was a clubber in London, in Soho, in a very sexual scene. Being a fashion designer, sex was available every half an hour if you wanted it to be. Very gay, very transsexual, bisexual, all of that stuff. So very much in my Lilith. Then I flipped over in my 30s, became a devout Kundalini yogini, was teaching for about 15 years, so really taking on that yogini lifestyle. So I flipped over into Eve. And then I had a health scare. I had some severe abnormal activity in my cervix. And I knew that this was the battlefield, my own internal struggle. Am I this or am I that? You know, I'd be a yogini, very pure, wearing white, and then suddenly this energy would just build up and I'd have to go clubbing. And when I dance, everyone knows about it.
Yeah.
I want center stage. Give me that podium. And so, of course, it's like shocking. It's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
One minute I'm doing all these mantras, getting up at 4:30, doing my spiritual practice. And the next moment I'm writhing around on a podium and next to nothing.
Yeah. Well, and that's where we connected, right? When we were speaking before, because I had a very similar journey of pole dancing by night and teaching yoga by day.
Yes.
And which one am I? Am I this or am I that? And both felt so authentic. Both felt so true.
Absolutely.
So and years to reconcile and bring them together. So grateful for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what are some ways that I mean, I feel like so many women are disconnected from one or the other, or there's definitely like the battleground you're speaking of. I know that for sure exists, because to tell you the truth, this actually was just in my consciousness yesterday, so I'll talk about it. On Facebook now we can see everything and everyone, and I see some of the young women that I danced with in my club days.
Yes.
And they're all mothers, and they're all sort of living these lives where, from what I can tell, the full integration hasn't happened. So they've really swung over to the Eve. And it's beautiful to see their lives, but I also know who I knew, you know, these are vivacious creatures, you know. So there, I know that, and I have good friends, even, you know, close friends who are in that space. So how can you speak to that in terms of, if you are in a marriage, if you are a mother now, how do you do that without scaring your spouse and still being available to your children and knowing that you're not going to wreck your family?
Yeah. Well, I'm not a wife or a mother, so I haven't taken that journey. I only know about extreme alchemy. I know that for me, polarity is a fantastic medicine. So if I was in my Eve, I would seek out a strong Lilith environment. That's what I did. That's how I did it. But that's not the question you asked me. So the question you asked me was for the mothers. I would say bring in those erotic movies. You know, just take that step from safe Eve motherhood, and in the sanctity and the comfort of your own home, start to watch the erotic movies. See if anything, you know, is anything happening. Erotic novels. Women love erotica. Men are kind of like, comme ci, comme ça. We'd like something a little bit stronger. But for the feminine psyche, erotica is amazing. Yeah. That would be a lovely, what I would call a baby step, but a wholesome baby step. We're starting to get that energy moving again. And then maybe a little bit further, pole dancing classes, starting to use the body, because the lady has made a commitment to be a mother and to be a wife. Then maybe Tantra is not so much of a good idea, because she wants to keep the container sealed, unless of course she's going with her husband. But there's plenty she can do to uphold sanctity of Eve, the goodness of Eve, and within her own safe container, seek out her Lilith in a way that won't threaten the husband, won't confuse the children. I mean, husband's gonna see it, husband's gonna feel it. There'll be a certain glint in her eye, and even kiddies, they will feel that. But it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to be a frightening thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So there's a step.
Absolutely.
There's a step.
Yes.
And the battleground that you spoke of, I know I have young friends who are, who are younger than myself, who are still in that space of trying to reconcile. One day it's, 1 month it's everyday Kundalini yoga. The next day it's a month of Hollywood parties and,
Yeah.
just abandoned.
Well,
go ahead.
What's interesting is Lilith has Eve's power. And Eve has Lilith's heart. If you think of these two polarities in their extreme, for me, my Lilith would be a woman who looks a little bit like Catwoman from Batman. She has her spiky heels on. She has claws for nails. She's got loads of dark hair like you. And she is just gorgeous. She's a little bit like Catwoman and a little bit like Trinity from Matrix.
Right.
But this being does not love. Back in my 20s, this lady didn't love anyone. She wanted power, more and more power, more and more control, and almost a little bit vengeful, to be honest. She wanted to take that man and wrap him round her claw, not her little finger. Wow. Oh, yes.
This is so amazing what you're saying. Yeah.
And there was no heart. There was no conversation of, oh my God, I think I'm falling in love with you. Not at all. There was just one thing, and that was power. So the two archetypes, they have a great gift for one another if you can bring them together in the same internal space.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how do we do that? I was wondering, were you going to guide us through a little process to do that?
Yes, this is the free gift I'm going to be sharing with you all, this guided journey. So what I feel is we have to begin the journey with the presence of Eve. If you're unintegrated and you go for Lilith first, you will become Lilith, and that could be, at first, quite a shadowy or dark energy, especially if you've pushed her to one side and said, you are forbidden. You can't come with me on this spiritual journey. This is a big energy. So I always say to the women, let's connect with Eve first. Let's go in with our sacred heart. So you got your love presence. Then off you go into the corners and chambers of your own psyche. Where is this throbbing, pulsing, wild woman? Where is she? And then you find her, and she might be a little bit annoyed that you come to get her. But she's hurting. We've put her in a closet and padlocked her in. So there could be a little bit of tumultuous energy when we first find her. Then we bring her back to Eve, knowing full damn well that these are two aspects of the same being. And, in their heart of hearts, they both want to unify. Yeah. So in the meditation, Lilith gives Eve her power. Not all of it, obviously, just half. And Eve gives half her heart to Lilith. Oh. And then they come together in an embrace. And by the grace of God, one unified woman who has access to that energy anytime she likes in the most appropriate and seamless way. And then the great invitation after that is, can she be that free with her partner? Because being that free with yourself is one thing. Then can you show both faces to your partner? Because men generally like to marry Eve, but have an affair with Lilith. And it can frighten them that their beautiful, tender wife can also turn into Catwoman. Yeah.
But they do love it.
They do really, of course they do.
Really love it. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I remember when I was a kid watching that film Grease, That's a very low profile story of Eve and Lilith.
Mm-hmm.
It's very soft, but you get the message. It's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, when you were saying that Lilith gives Eve half of her power and Eve gives Lilith half of her heart, I had chills up and down my arms, goosies. That was so beautiful. And, it's, I still, why is this important?
Why is it important? Because we need those energies in a holistic way. So let's just say you have taken the spiritual path. You've become a meditator, you've become a yogini, you've become a sacred masseuse. There's a very fine chance you've got rid of Lilith. Mm-hmm. And so you won't be able to say no. You won't be able to define your boundaries. You won't be able to rise up and stand for something. There's going to be no backbone. There's going to be no wild energy that needs to come through when something unjust is happening in your face.
You're going
to be a little dishcloth.
Yeah.
We need that power, and especially now when everything is really amping up. For myself, if I'm really in something, I'm telling a story, now I'm going round and around for weeks on an end. It's Lilith who comes in and said, right, that's it, enough. Mm-hmm. You, my lady, are changing now, in this moment. But if I didn't have access to that, I think I'd be a little bit ineffective.
Wow.
And the other way around, if we are mostly a Lilith being, we need Eve's heart, because we're simply not going to know love. Mm-hmm. We won't know intimacy, we won't know deepening, we certainly won't know anything about vulnerability or humility. Yeah. That Lilith does not do those things without the presence of Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, massive energies most needed for this time. We need to be tender and kind-hearted and comforting to one another. And we need to rise up and say, stop, this is wrong. This must change now. Here is my boundary. Don't even think about stepping on it, let alone crossing it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really hope everyone who is watching, I really hope that you're really taking this into your heart and that you're able to put your finger on the pulse of these energies within yourself, because I want this for all of you. I want the continuing unfoldment of it for myself, and I certainly want it for everyone who's watching, and know how important it is. I've had my pendulum swing from side to side it swung for about a good 10 years, I would say. The final piece was swung into Eve for a long time, and then I felt like I was dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just felt like I was dying. I was walking around like this, but I felt like I was dying.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until that came back in where I was like, I need that wild back. Those years of hanging off of poles, not in that way, but I needed to find the energy. And so
yes.
I really just so honor what you're saying, and know that it takes a courageous heart to go there. Yeah. And I know that the people who are watching are those courageous hearts. I know that's why you're watching.
Yeah.
So so if there was one thing that you could leave, one thing that if you could have every woman just know one thing, what would that be?
Slightly different subject. I would say to her, beloved woman, if you know that you are a lover with a capital L, if you know you also have the archetype of romantic or poet in your makeup, then seek out sacred marriage or sacred union. Because this energy, this experience with another being that you have magnetized towards you, these relationships, these unions have the full velocity of power to completely transform his and hers, or her and her, or his and his soul. That's the other thing I am extremely passionate about. What is really on offer in these tantric unions? It is so much more than relationship. Personally, I think we are playing around with that Garden of Eden energy again. One of the classic Gnostic slogans is that through the gateway of sex we fell from Eden. Through the gateway of sex we shall return. So there's something in that.
There is something in that. That's the sacred and sexy, right? That's the That's the whole reason why we're gathered here and having these conversations.
Yeah. I was listening to Andrew Harvey this afternoon, which is very exciting because I'm going to be with him next week.
I saw that on Facebook. Dr. Milan posted you're going to see the white lines.
Yeah. And he said today, these tantric unions, you are playing with the nitroglycerin of explosive material inside of the man and inside of the woman.
Yeah.
And things like that just set me on fire.
Yeah.
I have not experienced what he's speaking of, but myself and my beloved, we are getting close. We are getting close. There is a wealth of untapped potential.
Yeah.
The deeper you get into this.
Indeed. That's really what I'm continuing to find out as well. Just so humbling to continue to finding how deep this goes and how much is available, and just like scratching the surface is
I know.
amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, beloved. Thank you so much.
Oh, welcome, my love. You're welcome.
Yes. And I know, I wanted to talk about your beautiful book that you have coming forth. I know you're coming back over to stateside in the fall, and
yes,
the book is Sacred Relationship, the Practice of Intimate Erotic Love.
Yes.
And
I believe that's coming out. Yes, I think the book's coming out this summer or this fall. And it's not a linear book. It's a book that you hold in your heart. You literally hold it at the level of your heart when you're having a crisis in your own internal marriage or external marriage, and you just randomly flick. There's like 108 oracles. So what you'll do is you'll land on the right page, and that might be something for the sacred feminine, the sacred masculine, or for sacred marriage. So it's kind of like an oracular text. The exact little packet-size information for this exact moment right here, right now.
I love that. That's how I read a lot of my sacred texts once I've read them already. I'm just really feeling into them. That's really how I use them.
Yes.
I'm happy with that and can't wait to get it. And I know you talked about a little bit of your free gift a little bit, but there's a link. And what is it called again?
It's called The Reunification of Lilith and Eve. So it's a guided journey, myself speaking, music in the background, very atmospheric. So truly leading that woman from her Eve into the place where Lilith might be waiting, bringing Lilith back to the presence of Eve, each one of them exchanging their gifts, and then finally going into a long-awaiting embrace. Beautiful.
So you guys, you want to get that, because it's very different than Anaiya describing it to you than to really give yourself the experience. Yes. So grab it and then do it, and I will grab it and I will do it, and the same with the book. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Thank you for your generosity of heart and being present here with us.
You're so welcome.
Just really love you.
Likewise.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
See you. Bye.